welcome to my channel, Every Day I'm Mothering. Today I'm going to be sharing my 10 tips for getting started with homeschooling. Homeschooling can be very overwhelming when you first start out. There's so much information and so many things out there that you can easily get overwhelmed and frustrated. I know I did, and I almost said this is not for me when we started out. So I want to share the things that I've learned over the past couple years that will make your journey a little bit easier getting started and ultimately set you up for success. You want your homeschooling experience to be as positive as possible, so following these tips will help you with that. So this will be my third year homeschooling. I have a daughter moving into second grade this year, and then my middle daughter will be starting kindergarten. Then I also have a toddler at home with me. So while my family is mostly focused on the elementary range for our curriculums, these tips will apply across the board no matter what age your learners are as far as getting started in the homeschooling process. My first tip, do not jump straight into curriculum. I know that is the topic that seems to be at the forefront whenever anyone talks about homeschooling. So many curriculums out there that it's very overwhelming if you just initially, straight out the gate, start trying to work through all these curriculums, what they mean, and what's going to work for your family. My tip is don't start there. In this video, so you're already on the right track, but if that's you right now, pump the brakes, hold on a minute. Let's go through a couple more of these tips until you really get back into finding that perfect curriculum for you. So my second tip is going to be identifying the goals that you want to get out of homeschool. And that's going to look different for everyone. But it's really about identifying what it is that you want this experience to be. For me, I like to actually write that down. I mean, you can just think about it, put it in your phone or whatever works for you, but I like just pen to paper. But actually identify what are the things you want to get out of this. For example, maybe your child is struggling in a certain area, so that's one that you really want to highlight. Your child has a really strong interest in another area, so you really want to delve into that more this year. It could be that your primary goal is to match the public school so that your child is ready to integrate back in next year. Your child has some unique learning needs, or you're wanting to take this time just to really explore, build that love of learning, learn how to read. Whatever your goals are, just go ahead, identify them out, and that will help you later on when we start talking about curriculums. Third tip is to identify your time and method goals. And what I mean by that is listing out realistic expectations for time as far as homeschooling. I do want to preface that by saying that homeschooling does not take the same amount of time, hour for hour, that your kids may have spent in public school in the past. Teach that same amount of material in a much more amount of time when you're tailoring it to an individual child one-on-one. So do not stress that you're going to need to spend your entire day homeschooling. That's not how it plays out. For us, we typically spend anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day during homeschool, and that vary greatly based on what we're doing that day and just where we are so far in our schedule. But it is important to be realistic with what time constraints you may have. We're all in different situations. You may be having to work from home as well as homeschooling. You may have multiple children. So it might not be realistic for you to think you're going to spend 4 hours one-on-one with your student each day, and that's okay. But just go ahead and list out, what do you think time-wise, constraint-wise, that you have, what you can actually realistically do. Along that train of thought is talking about the methods that you want to use and that you're comfortable with using. If you have a lot of conflicting things with your time, it may be best for you to utilize an instructor-led program. So you may need the online courses or DVDs that are more instructor-led. Or you may have a student that loves workbooks. That may be something you want to look at. To do more hands-on, more games, experiments, or even an unschooling type approach. But it's important to identify if there's methods that you want to include, or if there's some that you don't. You may not want to use electronic devices or screen time, and that's okay. None of these are better than the other. It's just what works best for you, your situation, and your learner. And you know your kid better than anyone else. They're a visual learner, or they do better with audio. But that's one of the great things about homeschooling, is that you can tailor that experience to what will work best for your child. My tip is to take a quiz to determine your homeschool style. There are so many different styles of homeschooling out there. Curriculums are going to fall under those different styles. You'll be able to weed through a lot of curriculums by determining your style up front. And that's something I knew nothing about when I started homeschooling. I had no idea. Yeah, you had like traditional, Montessori, Charlotte Mason, eclectic, unschooling, classical, numerous styles. And each of those styles has their own philosophy and method about teaching. Recommendation, go online. There are several quizzes out there where you can determine what style will work best for you. And here's where you can use those goals you've already identified, any time or method constraints you've already identified, to help you fill out the quiz. Get a recommendation of probably the top 2 styles that would fit for you. And that doesn't mean that you have to take those, but it's a really good starting point and some good information. Then you can research a little bit about those styles, read about them, identify which parts you like or maybe which parts you don't. You can go from there. So we use more of an eclectic style approach. So we'll use bits and pieces from the different styles to put together more fun, games, explorative style of learning that works for us. So the next step is to review curriculum. You've already established your style, your time constraints, what methods or formats you want to use. So this should make it much easier for you to go through the curriculum. With that said, there's still going to be a lot of curriculum. My recommendation, join some Facebook groups, look on YouTube. It's like I have reviews on the curriculums we use. You'll find a lot out there. Really explore those. If you find some that you think you like, look at their samples, talk to other people who use them, and make sure they're going to be a good fit for your family. If you're interested in learning more about the curriculums we use, which is Torchlight, Logic of English, and RIGHTSTART Math, make sure to subscribe to my channel down below, and then you can check out those videos for more details about the curriculums themselves. I will caution you here, something that happens with a lot of homeschool families is you get curriculum happy and you will buy a lot of different curriculums that you don't end up using. It's okay if one doesn't work for you to switch to another one, but that can get really pricey and it can get frustrating when your learner is having to switch different methods. Really try to take your time and find the one that's going to work best for you from the get-go, so that it's not set in stone. You can switch later on if you want to. My 6th tip is to go ahead and create what you think you'd like your daily and weekly schedule to be. With that said, one of the benefits of homeschool is flexibility. So again, nothing's set in stone, but it really does help you to lay out what you intend to do. That way you can see if there's any issues with it, it's easier to go back and tweak. For us, when I started out, I did the hour by hour schedule. I thought, I've got this, I'm so organized, we're gonna do this, 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 and this, and I had scheduled us pretty much the whole day. And we maintained that maybe for a couple weeks, but it just wasn't realistic for us. So what I have found works better for me when I'm laying out what I think my schedule is going to be for the day is to start with just the morning and then the afternoon. I don't break it down by hour. I just talk generally what do we want to do in the mornings and what do we want to do in the afternoons. Then I also like to look at what do I want to do each day of the week. And what that means in like our case is that typically, we might do bulk of those readings Monday morning and then take the other mornings throughout the week to do our experiments, our activities, art, those type of things. And then for math and English, we typically do those in the afternoon, about 30 minutes each, so an hour there. And now I will usually just do those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I have learned it works best for us to keep Friday empty as far as the afternoons, and usually in the mornings too. That way we have a day to catch up on anything we've missed, if anything unexpected has happened. Friday gives us just a little bit of breathing room so that you don't get behind when, life happens. And also, in the past, we typically, for our homeschool, do a lot of field trips, enrichment tutorials, even like the zoo around here has homeschool classes you can do. So we are typically out doing a bunch of that socialization, which, unfortunately our year is going to look different too. This isn't going to be a traditional homeschooling experience for us either. But typically I do like to kind of build in that extra day there. Next tip is to get some sort of planner, whatever is going to work best for you, but I like to actually get one from Plum Paper. And I will have a separate video really detailing what my planner looks like. So make sure, again, subscribe to my channel. If you haven't, you'll be notified when that comes out. But I'll show all the details about how I set mine up. But I find a planner is really helpful. Even if you don't want to get down to the nitty-gritty of each day, it helps you keep on track. It can be easy in homeschool when you have those abilities to take breaks, to get behind and get off track. And you might not even realize that you're running out of time with the school year to finish up everything that you had scheduled. So if you at least have the lessons laid out by week and what you're hoping to hit each week, build in your breaks, you can easily see if you're on track, if you're getting behind, and what you need to adjust. Also, if you're using several different curriculums or you have multiple children, a planner is a must to help you stay organized. That is going to be the key to be successful in homeschooling, is being organized. So I highly recommend getting a planner of some sort. Next step is figuring out your workspace. I get asked this all the time if we have a homeschool room or special area set up. We don't, just because that's not what works best for us. But if you have an independent learner who's a little bit older, or you have multiple kids that you're going to be homeschooling, it might be beneficial to you to have a designated spot, either for each child or for that time when they're going to be doing their independent learning while you're doing something with the other children. So that may be, that they have their own little desk. I know a lot of people have desks for each of their children. You can put together as a unit or separated. Or you can just use your dining room table, your counter in your kitchen, whatever you have. It doesn't have to be this fancy, big, Pinterest-worthy homeschool room. Any of those spaces will work. And honestly, for us, we most of the time end up on the couch. We're all cuddled together with a blanket. We have our stack of reading books, and we just sit there and read through all of our books. It's very relaxed, informal. We have a lot of dialogue about the books, what we think about it, but we're completely comfortable and relaxed there. And then when we do math and English, Elaine and I just enjoy sitting down on the floor together. It's just what works for us. I'm more comfortable doing that than standing up teaching with a board behind me at her. We just like to sit down. We're working with a bunch of manipulatives and games, and it's just easy for us. So work with what you have. It doesn't have to be anything big and fancy, but do just think it through. Think about your situation, what will work best. Is your child easily distracted? Do they need to be in a room where, there's not a lot of toys? Like, we do not do homeschool in our playroom. It just would not work for us. So these are things just to think through now and kind of identify, what do you think will work best? So along those same lines of organization and thinking through your space, my next tip is to be organized. Again, this is key for success. You're dealing with a lot of curriculums and potentially, multiple children, all their work. It will be easy to get overwhelmed and lost in all of the paper and the materials and the books. Find anything or quickly get going with your day, then you're probably setting yourself up to be frustrated. It could be that you need bookshelves or a tote for each child, a weekly basket, storage totes for your curriculum. We'll do a separate video in more depth about how we are organized, but just broadly, I have found for us, it works best for me to have a weekly basket that I will put all the materials in that we're going to use that week, and I can just pull that out at the beginning of the week, update it, and then I will also have a tote for each child with any of their independent work that they have. And then I have a tote for math and I have a tote for English. And because those have so many pieces in them, the totes I have are really nice for keeping those all together. I just lift it up and I'm ready to go with math and ready to go with English. Then also you need to think about, for your state, if there's any tracking requirements, anything you're going to need to submit, how you want to keep track of those, whether you get some type of filing system, whatever you're going to need to be able to track and organize those things. For us, I like to put all of their work, like art, things like that, in a basket, and then I will just take pictures of those and have a digital recording of the things we've done throughout the year. Next tip is to build a support system for yourself. So I know a lot of times one of the biggest concerns around homeschooling is socialization and this fear that your kids are going to lose out on socialization. But typically, I would say we do all these enrichment things. We have a big group of friends and a large community here that we do stuff with. My kids are in lots of activities, so socialization isn't typically a concern for us. And actually, they're usually interacting with kids of various ages, and it's a more realistic skill set. But, this isn't a normal time for any of us, so that's not happening for us this year either. So we're looking at some other things, thinking outside the box about how we can still foster this sense of socialization. But just as important for your children's socialization is for you to feel support in homeschooling. In my community, like I said, there's a large group of homeschoolers. So I have a lot of support from Facebook groups, and then also some of my closest friends are homeschooling and our children are the same age. So we lean on each other a lot for information and support. One of the silver linings in where we are right now is that a lot of people are finding themselves homeschooling for the first time, and they're reaching out. They want that support. Just like in my neighborhood, there's a group of moms that are trying to get together that are completely new to homeschooling but want to be there to support each other. So look Facebook, see if there's something like that in your neighborhood. If not, start something. There's other people like that. Really pull resources and support each other with questions and information. And find ways for your children to still interact. Close friends that homeschool and have really been a part of this journey with me. And we're already talking about the things that we want to do this year. So we're looking at things like a family science fair, where our children are going to do some type of science experiment and then present it, whether it's on Zoom or whatnot, to the other families. We've also talked about doing a book club, having, our kids read a book and then get on Zoom and talk and discuss it. We've even talked about having them write plays and performing them, depending on where we are at that point. But these are all things that brainstorming, and we're trying to figure out ways that our children are still going to be able to interact with each other. Go into all of this knowing that even if you followed all these tips, you have the best intentions, the best schedules and plans, that you can always reevaluate and readjust as needed throughout the year. The most important thing is just take a deep breath, know that it's gonna be okay, your children are gonna be okay. Even if this is just 1 year, you plan to send them back to public school, they're not gonna be behind. If anything, if you follow these tips, you find something that works for you, they're gonna remember this experience and this time. You can make this a chance to really build a love of learning. Get in there, do these hands-on things. Remember, a lot of learning just comes through life. Even just cooking with your children gets them experience with reading, math, science. There are so many opportunities. If you have questions, feel free, put them down below. If I get enough of them, I'll do a specific video for FAQs. But if you hear one thing from me today, that you've got this. It's doable, it can be fun, and have a great experience with it. Bye everyone.